Microsoft is paying nearly $70 billion for Activision Blizzard, the maker of Candy Crush and Call of Duty, as it seeks an edge in the fiercely competitive businesses of mobile gaming and virtual reality technology. To break this all down for us, Fox Business's Gerri Willis joining us live now on LiveNOW. Hi, Gerri. How's it going?
Hi, Daytona. That's right. This is a big story. As you say, this is Microsoft's largest acquisition ever, $68.7 billion to acquire Activision Blizzard, possibly the biggest name in gaming. This company owns amazing brands that are known by gamers all over the world, including, as you say, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, even Candy Crush, which I think everybody knows, right? So this company has really made a mark in gaming. It's very well known. And now Microsoft, you might be surprised, is buying it. Why? Well, Microsoft thinks this will be a big addition to its effort to get into what they call the Metaverse. You remember Facebook changed its name to Meta, saying the Metaverse is the next step for all technology, right? What is that? Well, guess what? That's like an alternative universe in which you might play a game as an avatar, buy clothes for your avatar, and play in this kind of fake world, do all kinds of other things, maybe have meetings, business meetings there as well. So there's this view that we're all going to be sitting with these AR headsets on our heads and doing things virtually, but in a realistic way. So this is Microsoft's play into this. And I have to tell you, they're going to add all these games to Xbox Game Pass when the deal closes in 2023. This should really propel Microsoft's efforts in gaming quite a bit.
Yeah, Gerri, just like anything, though, this is being met with a little bit of opposition. Is this a gamble for Microsoft? We know that Activision has been under a little bit of scrutiny because of their culture. A frat-like culture is what we're hearing, the SEC looking into that. So is this a gamble?
Well, I have to say, I don't think their products are a gamble, but the culture of the company. It's not just a little bit of controversy. It has been headwinds of controversy. They've had settlements with the EEOC. They're supposed to pay out $18 million. I believe they are trying to push back on that now. But at the heart of all of this is some 700 complaints of activity, especially sexual harassment within that company. And they have let go 37 people as a result of investigations into this. Another 44 have faced disciplinary actions. This is serious stuff. It's gone all the way to the top of the company, to CEO Bobby Kotick, the guy who founded the company. He's also been accused of activity as well. So this is something the company's been dealing with for some time. At the heart of it, Kotick at one point was accused of not informing the board of what was going on, and that is a very big problem. Now, one big debate that's going on right now, and I think it's very interesting, will Kotick keep his job as CEO once Microsoft takes over the company? The press release said yes, but people now saying, no way.
Yeah,
Daytona?
There's some reporting that he's not going to be staying on as this deal closes. Like you said, though, 2023, so we've got a little bit of time. Well, there's a lot of people who may be watching this who are big gamers right now. What does this mean for exclusivity? Because we know that Microsoft is now going to have autonomy over these Activision games. So does that mean it is just going to be on Xbox or PC, or how is that all going to work?
Well, we know they're going to be on Xbox. That's going to be the main venue. And guess what? 25 million people are signed on to Xbox. As to how it will be further distributed, that's a great question. I don't know that we have answers very much on it right now, but you can bet that Microsoft is going to find every way it can to monetize these assets, which are substantial. It's interesting. This is a company that has pivoted several times in its recent past to take advantage of marketplaces that are opening up. They went to the cloud. They did very well there with Azure, that part of their business, and now gaming really tripling down on this with this Activision acquisition. By the way, Activision Blizzard shares are up 25% today.
Right.
So it's a very big deal. And going forward, I think you can expect a lot of tech companies and a lot of companies in biotech and healthcare to be doing the same kind of M&A activity this year going forward. We're going to see a lot of it, that's for sure.
Right. You mentioned at the very beginning that this is really a future play into virtual and augmented reality. I'm curious, there's been so much conversation about the metaverse and what the future is going to look like. When you saw this acquisition, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, I think this cements really what's going to be ground warfare among the nation's largest tech companies to seek out their own real estate in this increasingly competitive arena, right? Everybody's trying to get in front of everybody else for the next big thing. The next big thing is the metaverse. I have to tell you, when Facebook first changed its name, at first I thought, hey, you know, they're just trying to duck the negative publicity they've gotten as Facebook. But the more I looked at it, and now the more I'm seeing big tech companies like Microsoft respond, I'm thinking this is a serious thing, and there's going to be a lot of money spent on this, a lot of people hired to develop the kind of programming, to write the kind of code that's necessary to get this done.
Yeah, as we know, successful big companies react early because things are constantly changing. So I imagine a lot of companies are going to be hopping on here. Any last thoughts, Gerri?
Last thoughts, okay, watch out for that market. You know, we had a sell-off going on this morning. The good news, and I love to end on good news, it's eased up just a little bit. We started down 500 on the Dow. I just looked before I came on here. We're now down about 300, I believe, on the Dow. So that's at least something this morning. I know everybody's worried about their portfolios this month. This has been a tough 2022, but today a little better than it started.
Yeah,
back to you.
No doubt on that. All right, Fox's Gerri Willis joining us live here. We appreciate you. We've got a look at the big board right here as we're now down 430, so not looking great right there, but hopefully it'll look better come soon.
Okay, all right, I stand corrected.
All right, thank you, Gerri. We're going to take a quick commercial break here on Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back with more of the top stories from across the country.